Welcome to Season 3 of RecLess, the podcast making you smarter and more knowledgeable about the field of parks and recreation. Your hosts are Shane Mize, Jay Tryon, and Tom Venniro, three career-long friends from around the country who are joined by a surprise guest each episode. We're glad you're here. We hope you enjoy the ride. This is RecLess.
Welcome to RecLess. We are excited to bring you episode 12 of season 3 on our journey to try to bring our world to you all. As always, I am joined with my co-hosts, Shane Mize and Jay Tryon. I'm Tom Venniro. How's it going today, guys?
What's up, fuckers?
I'm good, man.
Oh my
Happy to be here.
Until that moment. We have a lot to talk about today, and we could probably do this. It's every once in a while we go a couple weeks without really having conversations, which used to be the norm before RecLess. But when we do that, it feels like there's so much to catch up on. But for the sake of the show, we're going to streamline it. We did just get back, myself and Shane, from Oklahoma. So we went to the Oklahoma Recreation and Park Society Conference, where we presented a few sessions, but maybe more relevant to this format here, we recorded our first ever live audience episode of RecLess. That was a really great experience, and Shane was really close to cutting Jay out of the episode.
We almost lost Jay.
When Shane is out of his element, I learned that it is a challenge. He doesn't have as high of a stress threshold as I would think.
Before it even started, he looked at me on the camera on the computer and was like, "Hey, do you mind if we just do this without you?" So yeah, I mean, I didn't think I was going to make the cut.
You still might not.
Well, it was a good time. We're not going to talk too much about that today, but I did want to mention it. It was a good experience, really fun, and excited for what might come out of that opportunity into some future experiences. Let's go into our pre-show or pre-guest discussion. And so we've had a lot of guests that we've talked at least in passing about this. Shane, you and I had talked a little bit with some of the individuals we met in Oklahoma about this, and Jay, you and I have presented about the topic, and that would be our why, right? And so what I don't believe we've ever done it in a pre-show discussion, so I just wanted to really start with how we've talked about Parks and Rec, and being a Parks and Rec professional has really enhanced the quality of life for our families and the experiences that they get that maybe a typical child who doesn't have a parent who works in this field maybe won't experience. So for me, I just want to ask you both to share a story, share one or two brief stories of your why and something that stuck with you. And I'll go first to give you a little bit of time. And again, Jay, I know I've heard a few from you, so you've got some great ones as it is. But for me, we have obviously all these events and programs, and one of them that we have done is a typical, I shouldn't say typical, but it's a big summer event that we used to do all that you would think of that comes with a summer festival: fireworks and bounce houses and rides and vendors, food trucks. A few years ago, we used to end it with a big screen movie. We found that was just too much in one night, so we ended up making it a standalone movie. And years ago, we just had this idea. I'm not really sure if it was Melissa or who came up with it, but it was for a VIP seating contest. And we had this stage that we lit up, and basically when the sun went down, prior to that, we would have some kind of a competition. And we'll just give you an example. Maybe it was the movie, what's that movie with the bear, Paddington. So for Paddington, we did a teddy bear picnic. And so any family who had set up a picnic, we would then go around just before the movie, judge their picnic, and pick a lucky family out, and then bring them up on stage. They would then get this inflatable couch bed, a couple seats for the parents, side table equipped with VIP passes, popcorn, drinks, and candy. So just this amazing experience, immersive experience, and they were right in front, to the side, not blocking anybody, but right in front of the screen. And what we found in several different instances is the joy that it brought to these families, that experience. And I wish that we could give it to everybody, as opposed to obviously one family maybe per event getting to enjoy that. And one of the more recent ones we showed was Encanto. And after the movie, we got a Facebook message, direct message from one of the parents. And here's how it read. "Thank you again for such a fun night. I think I'll carry the memory of our kids squealing about the VIP status and dancing to the Encanto songs in my heart forever. What a beautiful gift you gave to my family. Thank you. And that was just that those messages and hearing that and what we could do for a family or an individual. And that's just a snapshot in time, right? That's 3 hours of their life, but that stuck with them, and it's going to stick with that parent and hopefully the kids as a memory that they'll have forever. So just wanted to, that kind of adds to my why. It's just those stories that we hear of what we're able to do for people. And Shane, Jay, I don't know if one of you guys want to kick it off and share a good one from your experiences.
It's funny because I was just talking about my why and told a lot of different stories when I was at supervisors management school in Oglebay about 3 weeks ago. For me, I mean, it's more of the why of like how or why I got into the profession, but not more of a recent story. I mean, we could probably do a whole episode on different examples of our why and how things come full circle and how things impact us differently with different times of the year, with different programs. But the reality is when I was growing up, 13, 14 years old, I was not headed in the right direction, was hanging out with probably the wrong kids, getting in trouble a lot, doing some things I shouldn't have been doing, and got involved in a couple of different organizations that had some people that helped me get on the straight path. One of the organizations was called Young Life, and I ended up going to a Young Life summer camp, and became very close with one of the leaders, which is really more of like a camp counselor type position. And, these camps changed my viewpoint on a lot of things and really helped me guide back to where I knew I should be in life. The direction I was, heading was the wrong path. And then got involved with that organization, got more involved with some other youth groups, after school programs. And the more I was diving into that, I was building these relationships, and I was having relationships both with people my age, but also with camp counselors and leaders and youth group leaders and folks that were doing that as a career. And I said, man, I don't know, like what it would take for me to be able to do something like that. And then obviously stumbled upon Park and Recreation. That's why we've had conversations, the three of us, about mentorship and what that means. And to me, it's deeper than just like mentoring a young professional, because I had mentors when I was 13, 14, 15 years old, that if I didn't have those people, I wouldn't be here in this profession. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I wouldn't have met you guys. So it's this whole, circle of coming full blown what it meant for me is to find people that I could rely on to help me with not just recreation activities, but also just like life lessons. And I know we do that too. It's, we focus on the recreation, we focus on, knowledge and education, but it's also life lessons. It's also, it could be personally. And I know there's been conversations that I've had with staff that turned personal, that may not have started personal, but that mentor piece of it is what has really motivated me along the way with career development, professional development. So, I'll continue to push that and spend as much time as I can, and as much as people that need that, like I'm always going to put time aside for that.
Yeah, I agree with Jay. I think when you're thinking of the email that you read, Tom, I mean, I can think of hundreds, maybe an over exaggeration, but I can definitely think of a lot of emails I've gotten over time. We did a daddy-daughter dance, but I hired a professional photographer, but then I hired a bunch of kids from a local photography class to do B-roll photos. And so when the couples were walking up, it was like paparazzi. And we had a red carpet, and, so there's actually cameras being taken, but there's a bunch of other flashes. And so they paused, and they went through, and multiple dads were like, that was the most surreal experience. Because at one point when Colin Jost or whatever is with, his wife, which is the famous one, I can't think of her name right now, but they walk in together, but then they're like, okay, scoot to the side, we need a photo of the star or whatever, so we did that with the dads at one point, where we got them all to the side, and the daughters are just posing in front of these cameras or whatever. And then they come in, and the dad saying, seeing their daughters go through that moment, and how, tall they walked afterwards, and how they felt like, that moment, that type of moment is what has always appealed to me about our industry, is just making an impact. I love coming into places and transforming them. I love building, we built this sport court. Tom was a little bit more familiar with it than Jay. I don't know if Jay saw any of the things that have been shared about it, but it's this basketball court that we laid a mural on it, and it's got soccer goal infrastructure that comes out of the ground, like telescoping handles from luggage. So it can be a basketball court, but it can also be a soccer court. And something that was never there before, and something that there's nothing like it in the state of Texas, for us to do that and to see the impact. And so many people have already tagged themselves playing on it. And there was this European father who has moved to America, and his kids are at the Austin FC soccer academy. So his kids are incredible soccer players, right? They're in the academy. And this was a partnership with Austin FC, and Austin FC sent it out to all their folks. And so these parents came in, not from Pflugerville area, just to see this thing. And the dad was talking to some staff and was like, this is something that will impact this community. I wish we saw more of these things like this. This is what you see in Europe more, where there's soccer fields that can also be, or soccer courts can be basketball courts, and you don't see that in America. But I think just having an impact, knowing that in the 6 or 7 years I gave Fort Worth, the time, effort, attention that I gave it, it was better when I left it. Same thing with Missouri City. The 6 or 7 years I poured into Missouri City, and the things we changed and the facilities we built, like a brand new rec center, have improved quality of life. And the same thing I'm trying to do here in Pflugerville. I'm 5 years into a 7-year thing. And the mayor pro tem the mayor and the mayor pro tem were at the Stonehill Sports Court, and he walked up to me. He was like, Jeff's great. Jeff's new. Y'all have got to know Jeff, but not everyone in our community knows Jeff still. He's only been here around 6 months, 7 months. And he walked up to me after the ribbon cut, and he was like, Jeff's great. And he was like, is this going to be another thing where we lose him in a year like we lost Kelsey? Because Kelsey was great. Kelsey was incredible. She's the director in College Station. She's killing it there. And I said, no, Jeff will be here. You will lose me. I'm on my way out. I'm looking for my next place to develop. And we had a really cool conversation where I talked to him about why I like to go into communities and kind of tear down to the studs and rebuild it back up and to really impact quality of life. And it was cool that he totally got it, and that he wasn't scared of what the future looked like, because there was a team in place to continue this great big project we're doing, and I get to go do a new one. So I love having impacts. I love going into a community and really re-envisioning what that looks like. And not everyone can do that. Tom probably can't move 3 or 4 times. He's got a growing family, and they have family nearby. And Jay maybe could, but Jay's only going to move to a certain spot, because he's looking for his next move potentially where maybe family are closer to him. But Hannah and I have been committed to, when the next spot calls out for me, we go, even if I move ahead of time and we're at great sacrifice for a while. So just the idea of having impact on community. I don't think there's a lot of other fields, not even doctor, lawyer, developer. I don't know if there's a lot of other areas, private sector, public sector, nonprofit sector, that has the impact on the quality of life that Parks and Rec has.
Yeah, that was really well said, guys. I love the conversation. And Shay, you said we could probably, we definitely could have a whole episode on this, and a couple
he said
takeaways.
Shay. That's Jay and Shane together.
It is. That's what I'm going to do from now on. So just get used to it. For a couple
I'll call you
takeaways.
Sean.
That's right.
Sean.
Sean. Yeah, Sean and Shay. I'll just call y'all dickheads.
Yeah, thank you. A couple key takeaways there. Shane, you and I presented on the professional development roadmap, but that could be professional development, that could be community impact. And the ultimate takeaway that we had from there was leave it better than you found it, which is what you obviously articulated so well. Also, we have a new nickname for Shane, I'm pretty sure. So obviously, Joanna and Chip Gaines are in your area, right? They're in Texas, not too close, but they're the fixer-upper, right? You are the Parks and Rec fixer-upper. I'm pretty sure you just campaigned with a bunch of city managers to get a new job. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna send that sound clip to
looking for my next one. That's right.
All right, guys, a lot of fun and really great insight as always. Let's get to our amazing guest, who is under the pseudonym Leaderly Blonde.
Leaderly Blonde. I love that.
Now, do either of you have a pun, or does anybody see any? I'm just curious on the name Leaderly Blonde.
The movie, right?
Okay. I was just curious if you would understand that or not.
So I actually already have an idea of who it might be, but I could be totally off, but I'll let you go.
Okay. All right. So
it's a movie about bridges in Iowa.
The pun of Legally Blonde. Our guest today, listener and co-host, is a master traveler. I love that Jay is at home today with that wonderful map of his family adventures behind him, because that just played perfectly into our guest, who has visited 46 of 50 states. Jay, I believe
they're a speaker.
you've got about 30 at least to go on that list, right? So, okay,
We're a
46
little
of 50.
behind.
Almost half the national parks and historic sites in 20 countries in Europe, Asia, and the Caribbean. Our guest's favorite place to visit or vacation is simply a beach with a book. Our guest is a self-taught chef, loves entertaining and trying new recipes, also plays very well into our show. In fact, yesterday in our pre-episode meeting, I don't know how this would happen or the chances, we were both preparing a meal that was almost identical. Butternut squash soup, which I know Shane would probably not approve of. Jay,
I could tell you how rare that would be. Pretty rare.
I don't know how the chances of that, but we were. Our guest is an Army brat, or was an Army brat, grew up attending Army football games at West Point. Our guest began their career for a decade in campus rec at Rutgers University Recreation, working with clients with traumatic brain injury at Rutgers Medical School, and was also an adjunct professor at Rutgers. Jay, you said you had an idea. How are you feeling right now?
It hasn't changed. I don't know the Rutgers tie, but my thought is still on someone.
Okay. During that time, our guest, I'm sorry, I skipped one. Our guest spent 30 years working for a regional county park system, first as recreation director and then as the agency assistant director. And during that time, also ran their state association conference for 35 years and facilitated strategic plans, including one for New York State, which was where I first met our guest back in, I believe, 2012. And lastly, our guest served in a variety of roles for NRPA, including 8 years on the NRPA Conference Program Committee, director on the NRPA American Park and Recreation Society, chaired the NRPA Mid-Atlantic Regional Council, and served on the NRPA Board of Directors Diversity Committee when it was first formed 20 years ago. Our guest is the current president.
Cindie Sullivan?
Man, you guys always ruin this for me. Yes, the current president of the American Academy for Park and Recreation Administration. Welcome, Leaderly Blonde, Cindie Sullivan.
Hello.
Hi there, guys. Jay, did you know it was me?
So, and yes, well, there was two people in mind and you were one of them. But the funny thing is, when he said the comment about reading a book on a beach, I am pretty 99% sure that when we talked like 3 months ago prior to Atlanta, you were on a Florida beach reading a book.
I was.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So when he said that and I had you in my mind, I'm like, I think it might be Cindie.
Well, Cindie, welcome. Thank you for putting up with and enduring the really long-winded intro that we had today. I just want to say that we've had some conversations recently, and I learned so much more about our guests during the pre-show conversations, which I really enjoyed yesterday with Cindie. Cindie is possibly the most prepared guest that I've ever had. I usually do a really nice job finding facts and getting those clues and hints ready. Cindie provided me a whole list in email without me even asking prior to our pre-show. Yeah, it was amazing.
Cindie, I thought I was supposed to do that.
That's great.
We love it. We love it. Made the job easy. So, Cindie, you heard our pre-guest announcement discussion, right, about the wow factor, right, and our whys, and we had a great conversation about that yesterday. And you talked about the professional joy and those wow moments. You've obviously had a career to create so many of those, and I just really would like you to add to the conversation that we had a few moments ago.
Sure. A couple come to mind. At the beginning of my career, Rutgers has always been a multicultural student body and faculty. And so I used to run trips when I did programming to New York and Philly, because Rutgers was an hour, between each of those metropolitan cities. And to see the joy on people's face when they saw the Statue of Liberty for the first time, and you might think this is hokey, but it really wasn't, because people used to love this, running up the stairs at the Art Museum in Philly, the way Rocky used to in the movies. Or having a bite of their first slice, which is what pizza is called in New York and New Jersey, or Philly cheesesteak. So that would be one early in my career. When I worked at Somerset County Park Commission for 30 years, there are so many. We had a therapeutic riding equestrian program for children and adults who are on the autism spectrum. And there was one in particular, a child who was nonverbal, never spoke. And after participating for 10 weeks, the child started to speak, and the parents just sobbed. It was awesome. And I can't take the credit for it. Dina Trunzo was the therapeutic recreation manager, and it was her program and her staff. It was a phenomenal moment that I will never forget. And the other one is we had a minor league baseball stadium that was not run by the Park Commission, but owned by the county and then leased to a team that now has an affiliation with the New York Yankees, which probably none of you like based on where you live, but regardless. And 5 days before, well, 6 days actually, when it started, before we were going to host our first concert, which was Willie Nelson, it was 1999, we had Hurricane Floyd hit. And it filled the entire stadium. It looked like a soup bowl when a helicopter flew overhead. And we said, there's no way we're going to be able to pull this off. The town of Bound Brook was on national news because it was so flooded in the town. So many people lost their homes and all of their belongings. And we said, no, we can do this. And so we arranged for a doctor to come in. Everybody got updated. DTaP vaccinations and hepatitis vaccinations, and we worked 16-hour days for the next 5 days once the water receded, the park staff and the ballpark staff, and we made that concert happen. I had never run I've done free concerts in the park, but not a concert like that of that magnitude. The governor came. We had Willie Nelson donated a portion of his fee to help rebuild Bound Brook. We had 2 18-wheeler trucks come, and people donated food and clothing and furniture to give to those families. So I think it was one of the more significant things that staff did as a team to give back to the community. So it's a different type of wow moment, but it was a great, great moment.
Yeah, just adding to the impact that our industry could have on a community. It doesn't have to just be what we typically think of.
Yeah, exactly. And on the flip side, my regret about our concerts is that in 2002, a group of guys came out with their first album, and I bought the CD at the time because that's what I listened to at the time, and said, oh my God, these guys are going to be huge. We have to book them. And they were actually in our price range. The stadium is 7,500 seats. So you can't have somebody that's too expensive because you can't afford, 30,000 seat stadium. And the person who is a decision maker, my boss, said, I listened to this. No one likes them. They're not going to go anywhere. We pass. So we did not book them.
The Beatles.
No, it was Maroon 5.
Oh,
What?
wow. About the same impact. Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, exactly. So I really, really wish that I'd been able to say that we had Maroon 5, but we did not.
But it also tells for a cool story that you had a good ear and you wanted to, and leadership didn't want to, because then you can always hold that over them.
But leadership actually listened to it. That's the weird part about it, right? They had a good ear for the music.
Yeah.
Just maybe not a good eye for the future.
Well, the next year, somebody came out with their first album, and so we booked them, and it was Jessica Simpson, and we had 7,500 screaming teenagers who absolutely positively loved it. So that was kind of awesome.
Girl, you need to go to Vegas. Your ear is catching Simpson on the rise and Maroon 5 on the rise.
I
That's
know,
really
it's
impressive.
Maybe Nashville. Yeah.
You should be on a different show where they turn around when people are singing. You should not be on our dumb podcast.
I love The Voice.
There you go.
Speaking of
And
Maroon
it's not
5,
a dumb podcast. This is an awesome podcast.
Good.
We think so. Except for sometimes Shane doesn't want to mention that we have more than 4 listeners sometimes.
You have a lot of listeners.
Sometimes, for sure.
Yeah.
So we served on the program committee together, and it was when I served with you as probably a pretty formidable time in my career. I was trying to figure my way out and who I was in this industry. I was still much younger, I feel like, than I was now, and I think the Young Professional Network was getting started or started. One of the things that the three of us talk about a lot is our network. You know, you hear people call it your tribe, your group, your people. The YPN fam, which is what we call our group, or those 10 or 12 people that we've leaned into heavily, have been vulnerable in front of each other. I feel like in a lot of ways, any success I've had has been my ability to know that if these 10 or 12 people think I'm doing something well, I'm okay with no one else thinking I'm doing it well. When I think of you, you were probably the first person in the industry that I knew of that had your own tribe, that had a tribe that we, and I don't know how big it was, but I remember you and Karen and others were really close. It almost to me looked like it didn't matter what anyone else thought. As long as y'all were good with what y'all were doing, y'all were supporting each other, you were going to go make the impact. And you didn't feel like you had to justify yourself to the masses. You had to justify yourself to your group, And I remember that from a distance, seeing you being close with folks and being like, wow, that seems like a way to go. So how did you build that? How did you grow a group of people that you can lean into heavily? Because we get that a lot, and I don't think it's one way to do it. And we find people when we go out and speak, they're like, how'd you get this group? How are you so close to these people? And I think it just has to happen organically. You can't force a tribe. But I would love to hear y'all's origin story with the group of people that you're really close with, because people ask us that from time to time. How do you grow a group like that?
That's a really great question. And I hope that the one thing you said about as long as we're okay within the tribe, we don't care what other people think. You said from a positive perspective, because I hope it's not exclusionary, because we never meant it that way.
No.
I think it's people like Bill Fulch, who was my first professional mentor, who quite honestly said, you need to get involved in NJRPA. You need to get involved in NRPA. Start participating in these activities. And back then, NRPA had the regional networks, the 8 regional networks, and then they had all the different societies. And then they also had, I forget what they were exactly called.
Branches, sections, everything.
Right, the sections. Yep. Thank you. So I made sure I was active in them so that if you were creating a policy or you had an issue, you had people you could call upon from all over the country. And a lot of that actually came from the CPC, from the program committee, because those relationships I still have today.
Yeah.
Those people are awesome. And the big 3 were Harvey Feldman, Ron Olson, and Ernie Burkeen. And just Ron is left now, but that's who I saw as the first tribe. Yeah. And how do you grow that? And so there are many other people that I would call upon in a heartbeat for guidance, for assistance. But I also believe that it shouldn't just be people that are my age group. I think something that Chris Noon said a long time ago about you need to have a mentor. Well, he said that's 30 or younger, or you're missing the boat. I think it could be okay to say 40 is the new 30.
Yeah.
because there's a lot of wisdom in every age group. And I have learned so much from the people that have been the mentees to me. I've learned just as much of the different activities that we've done. You can't just participate with someone on a Zoom call once a month. That's nothing. You need to share and like, we've read books together, we've done different exercises together. It's really important.
You're living life together in some ways.
Yes. And I want an opportunity. I've been waiting for this since Tom O'Rourke was your guest. And he specifically said, with apologies to Cindie Sullivan, I do not believe in formal mentoring, except when she asked me. So when I listened to that episode, because I do listen to almost every episode, I was like, wait a minute, when it's my turn, I was
Yeah.
going to speak to that because there is a place for formal mentoring. However, there is just as much room for the informal opportunities for people to connect. And I also think it's important, and it's one of the things, not to just have a plug for the academy, but that the extern program does, that it's not just matching an extern with an academy member. Those academy members should be introducing those externs to as many people as possible in a variety of age groups so that they can expand their tribes, to use your word, because that's a great word. So did I answer
No,
your
yeah,
question?
you definitely did.
I want to add a couple one follow up question.
Oh,
But first,
wait. Can I just say one thing? And by the way, the 1 year that I got Tom O'Rourke to participate in the formal mentor program, it was because I was pairing him with you, Tom, because you said I want to do this, but I need someone who's going to be a seasoned person to help me further expand my leadership. And I
Tom's
called
such a
Tom
diva.
O'Rourke.
yeah,
He was
I was just gonna say, she just made me sound like a major diva again. I promise that's not the case.
Tom was like, I'll do your stupid mentoring program as long as you have one of these names.
As long
Shane Mize or Tom O'Rourke. That was it. I get it.
Yeah.
All right,
No,
sorry,
I
I
actually
cut you
said
off.
I said it's got to be someone with the name Tom, and it's already
That's right.
done great things. So either way, I wanted to just put some perspective back into the regional networks, which were maybe sections or branches, and then networks, and then X amount of years after the network system, NRPA decided they were going to get rid of them. I'm sure there's always business decisions out there. There's always reasons. But I do believe that was one of my first exposures. It was YPN and the regional network with NRPA. And there was a lot of value to being able to get a seat at the table as a young professional with those individuals in our region. There really isn't a place for that anymore. You have to make that opportunity for yourself. So, that's maybe me on a soapbox. I do believe there was some value there. And again, I met the Cindie Sullivans. I met the Bill Folshes. That's how I got a lot of opportunities from
I
being
think
a
they
part
were
of that
too
group.
strong at some point. Like I think the Midwest region was like its own force, and the Mid Atlantic and others. And I think
Yeah.
in some ways I don't know if breaking it up is the right or wrong word, but probably trying to equally distribute power back among membership as a whole. But yeah, at Southwest region, we knew people in the Southwest region that we wouldn't see at the state conference, wouldn't see at the national conference, but it was Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, New Mexico. We would see them in the Southwest region stuff.
Right.
So
a lot of value there. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. But the follow-up question I had about the tribe, what's really special about it is, and I would say Shane and Jay, you could probably agree with me. I would hope on this, but half of our conversation or less is about what we do professionally. Another half of it is personal, our family, our interests, and what I really enjoy. That's really a nice break for me personally. When we're at a conference, I don't necessarily 100% of the time want to be talking about the job too, right? Like it's the conference is a grind. And so to have people that I could connect with and just talk about what are they doing at home? How's your family doing? What'd you make for dinner the other night? Right. And that's really valuable to me. That helps me decompress and adds to that, that quality of life, that work-life balance when work is such a big part of our lives, which I also think all of us here could agree with. Cindy's quote unquote retired, but we talked about this yesterday, hardly retired and keeps going and is doing more than most people who could say they're retired are doing. Right. And so I want to talk about a conversation we had yesterday for us, at least for Shane and myself and Jay. We get together at these conferences, and one of our big activity is food hunting. So someone is always either doing research, or even if it's last minute, we're like, hey, let's try this place. Hannah will come along. We'll invite other individuals, obviously, to join us with that. As many people who want to come and we could find seats for. But I get such joy out of that, right? And experiencing that with you, the two of you, and everybody else who joins us. Cindie, you have a totally different story, which just blew me away. And that goes back to the discussion I had earlier about Jay's family adventure map. So not only do you travel on your own, right? But when you go to these conferences, you shared with me that, and you told me about the 20 historic sites or national parks, but you and your tribe are finding parks or national parks or state parks, and you're taking either a day or so before or a day or so after or sometime in the middle of the conference to make a point to do that with your tribe. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what that's meant to you all to maybe enhance the experience of, attending conference and being a part of the tribe?
Sure. And Jay, this is how you're going to get your states too.
There you go, buddy.
Yeah, we got some work to do.
Yeah.
Pretty lean up there.
So probably 3 or 4 days before conference each year, we plan them a year in advance. We select the national parks that are closest to wherever NRPA is going to be held and plan our adventure to explore those national parks. And in some cases, as I told Tom, they're not really close. So the last time the conference was in Minneapolis, the closest parks were in South Dakota, which is not close.
Is that where the bridges are, Shane?
South of that.
Okay.
So we went to the Badlands. We went to Mount Rushmore. We went to Wind Cave. We went to Custer, which was a state park. We went to Deadwood, which is the HBO series was out then. So, they were all based on real characters of the Wild West. So we wanted to go there as well. If anybody's ever heard of Wall Drug, which it sounds like a drugstore, but it's this crazy huge store where you can buy absolutely anything. So it was really a cool adventure. And then we had to drive 8 hours to get to Minneapolis, but it was worth it. And the best part of the trip was Fran Manella, of course, as you know, was director of National Park Service. So she, when you have a tribe, we reached out to her and she contacted the park superintendent and he said, I'm going to give you a tour, but don't come till 4:00. Like, okay, this is October. It's going to be dark soon. So he said, bring food, bring warm clothing. So from 4 to 5, we piled in his vehicle and he showed us things in the park. And then the sun went down and so did the temperature. And, out came the hot coffee and everything else. And I have never seen so many stars and the Milky Way the way we did in the middle of a place where there was no ambient light to block it. You just laid there and looked up in the skies and the heavens. And it was an incredible, surreal experience. So people say, oh, my favorite national park is, Yellowstone or Yosemite or the ones that sound sexy. I've been to Hawaii, but no, it's an experience like that. It's awesome. And I felt the same way when we went to Cadillac Mountain and saw the sunrise in Bar Harbor in Maine. You have to get up at 3 a.m. in the summer because while the sun doesn't rise until 5. Yeah, I know, but no, I can't do that. I'm too. I'm like, why are we getting up at 3:00? Because they tell you if you don't get there by 3:15, you won't get there because that's how many people go to watch the sunrise on the top of the mountain. And that was incredible too.
That's wild. And you're experiencing that with people that that bond is that strong, right? That you may only see them 3-4 times a year, maybe less.
Yes. And then we have people like Rosalind Johnson who say, well, I want to come next year.
Yep.
I know. I'm like, I want to come now.
This is definitely up Jay's alley. I thought about you when Cindie and I talked about it.
That's awesome. I want to go back to a little bit of what you were talking about earlier with your involvement with different things. So you talked about CPC, you talked about your state conference or state association. I'm currently on the CPC. You're obviously extremely involved and have been involved with a variety of other areas, including the academy. For people that are listening to this that are not involved in a committee or in an outside group like the academy or maybe a state association, can you share a little insight on, why they should get involved and maybe some first steps to get involved? Because I feel like that's one area of our industry that we're very lucky that there's always ways for us to get involved. Shane and Tom and I have talked about this. That's how we met, being involved with the YPN. And, when you talk about building a tribe, you talk about building a group of folks, like it can start by just being involved, but some people may not know where to start to get involved.
And perhaps this leads into your pseudonym today. Leaderly Blonde.
Perhaps it does. It was really really hard to come up with a name that I thought you might not guess. And Jersey Girl would have given it away. I think many people just need to be asked. So but they're hesitant to do it themselves. So if there's someone that you know within your state, or it doesn't even have to be in your state, just someone you know that you've met anywhere around the country that isn't active, but you think would be great to be involved somewhere, is invite them to participate, because sometimes that's all the impetus people need. Oh, people think I have value, because there's a lot of imposter syndrome going around. People think, oh, it just affects women, or it just affects people of color. It affects everybody. It affects men too. It's hard to say, how do I get it in, especially if it looks like they all have a tribe. I'm an outsider. Not really, because I think our profession is very inclusive. All it takes is that first step, even if it's in your state association, to just say, I want to join this committee. It doesn't have to be on a national level. I know some agencies don't have the funding for someone to participate. I think the NRPA networks are great now because people can just pose a question and, instantly you get a lot of responses or shared policies, whatever it is that you're specifically asking about. And maybe people can take an opportunity to reach out and pick up the phone and call someone and start a conversation. I think it's really important that we develop the 30 under 30 program. I cut myself off in mid-sentence there, but I did it on purpose. The 30 under 30, because we're also recognizing people that have that potential. And then there's the people that are your age group, that you guys are right on the cusp of you are our future leaders. I said that at the dinner, the Academy dinner. It's a year or two, you're going to be the next Academy leaders. And then there's people that are going to come up behind you. And we need to cultivate those relationships so it just keeps going and it keeps building. And I think it was Shane who said this, more than any other profession, whether it's government or nonprofit, or especially this would never happen in corporate, people ask for something and we share it and we collaborate and we help people to be better. We help each other to be better. We help the staff in our organization to be better. And ultimately what happens, that provides for better experiences for the people in the communities that we're serving. And that's the bottom line.
So I asked this question to Chris Bass, and my wife said I haven't asked it since, and she wanted me to bring it back. So this is a question for you. What was something you did well that other people in our industry admired most about you?
Oh my gosh. Okay, I feel like I'm in an interview.
That's right.
I didn't prep for this. Okay, this is probably going to be an unusual answer,
Sure.
but it's the first thing that came to mind. No one in my organization said my staff. We all worked for Somerset County Park Commission. We were all on the same team. So people reported to me, but they were not my employees. People knew not to say that. We were about excellence. We were about being a team to have that excellence. So grammar is very important to me. You probably, all three of you on some level, have heard some sort of story, whether it's good or bad, about me and grammar. And so
I was on the program committee with her.
Yeah. So I'm the person that proofs and edits things. And it doesn't mean that people can't make mistakes. We all make mistakes. I make mistakes. Just own them and move on. But I grew up in a household where I said to Tom earlier, where it was a military household. We went to West Point football games because my dad was a grad. So we grew up with the 7P rule. Do you all know what that is? Don't make me say it.
B-roll?
The 7P rule.
Like as in Pflugerville, P is an E.
7Ps. So it's personal, people, providing, no, I don't know. Just 7Ps.
Can I say the one word? Is it permissible to say the one word?
Any one
You can say
word
any
that
word.
you say, any one word that you say that you think is bad will not be anywhere close to as bad as any word Shane says.
Okay. That's true, Shane.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Prior proper planning prevents piss poor performance.
Oh.
Yeah. So if something happened in our house, my father.
You said piss? No,
I did. Is that bad? If it is, we can make it the 6 rule. You want me to repeat it as the 6P
We're going to
rule
have to
and you can
censor
edit
it.
out?
It's incredible.
Okay.
It would be kind of funny if that was our first bleep of any episode.
That would be funny.
When we break through that word.
And then when I went to Rutgers, the professor I had who was the head of the department said, if you walk away with anything, you walk away knowing that the 3 most important things that you're going to do in your park and rec department are details, details, details. And I thought, oh my God, I'm getting it again. But that's what I brought over. So you can't be the best at everything, nor can your agency do everything. But the things that you do, you should do to the best of your ability.
I love that. I believe, and I've said it on this thing, the pursuit of mediocrity is a sin. Like, if you can't do it well, let someone else do it. And
exactly.
Hyper focus on the things you're doing well. Serve those communities well. Bring in someone else to help you offset those weaknesses or allow another agency to excel in those things, but no, I love that. I agree with that.
And going back to the 7P rule, I had to laugh 2 weeks ago because Snoop Dogg gave it as advice to the people he was coaching on The Voice, and it made me laugh.
Really?
That's funny.
Yes.
He said piss?
No, he made it 5. He cut out prior as well. He just had the 5 rule. So.
We'd like to apologize for all young listeners.
I love that we're also quoting Snoop Dogg in our podcast right now.
That's right.
Listen,
Right.
Snoop
awesome.
Dogg is a really kind soul. I heard a great story about him. I'll share it another time, but really impressed with Snoop Dogg after what I've learned about him.
Okay.
Real family man. And
Yes,
I'm not joking.
want the takeaway from this podcast to be that I said that word.
Cindie, I don't know if you understood or if you've listened to this before, but if you heard how Shane greeted us today, I'm pretty sure that you have. I mean, that was the first too. He's used the word before. That was the first time he's directed it at us, I believe, during the show.
No, surely not.
I will add, Cindy, I love what you said, because when I was in Indian Trail, that was something I was always making sure of, that I never said my team or my staff. It was always like the team. Everything was team. Like all my emails were went out to the team. And it wasn't just when I did it too. Like other people did the same thing, whether they reported to someone above them, below them, when their emails were being sent. Like we built a team. Maybe it was a lot easier because it was a very small department, but like that team atmosphere, and when you are running an event and it's all hands on deck, but everyone understands it's a team, like there's nothing more important from the leader perspective that you can get across to that is we're all on this together, regardless of your position, regardless of your title and your rank. And I'm so glad you said that, because that's something that's been like ingrained in my head since day one, is like, I never want anyone that does report to me or doesn't report to me to feel like I feel like I'm above them, or because I have a certain title that I'm better than them, because it's not. Like, it is, Shane said it too. It's just like this team atmosphere and, this going for excellence, not mediocrity, regardless of who's going to be able to lead that charge. I don't care whether it's myself or whether it's our part-time staff. If they have the idea and they're going to run with it, and I trust them to do that, and I'm going to empower them to do that, hey, you lead it and you do it. And then you know what? Like, we'll all tackle you right behind it and take the lead with you.
Then Jay will take the credit.
That's right. That's right. I love the detailed part too, because especially the larger staffs you start to manage, you can't be shoulder to shoulder with them. And, you have to hammer the details. Junior, when my park superintendent was talking about a bike repair station we put in, And he's got so many guys now, so many crews, so many crew leaders. He's not there when they're putting something in. So he'd gone back a couple days later to review it. And one of the bolts that was fastening this to the concrete was bent. And he took a photo and he had him come back. He had the whole team gather. And he said, you're either you're coaching it out or you're allowing it. And is this bent bolt a huge deal? No, probably not. Will it hold up to the rigors of weather and wind and potentially flooding? Sure, probably. And if it doesn't, is it tough to replace one bolt? No, it's not. None of those things matter though in the pursuit of excellence, because if you're willing to leave something like that less than 100%, what else are you willing to do? And it goes back to it, like Junior said, it wasn't about the bolt. It was about them knowing that I'm not allowing it in any level. So if I see it later in a restroom, if I see it later in the ball field condition, and I didn't correct it at the bolt, then I'm giving them some head ache or some head trauma, because then they're trying to figure out where my threshold is. But if I tell you my threshold is always excellence, that we're not satisfying for anything less than that, then they don't have to say, well, he doesn't mind it with the bolt, but he does mind it with restrooms. No, he cares about the pursuit of excellence in every level, right? And that's especially with a group that you can't oversee every day. That's how you manage them,
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I would add, before we move on to our rapid fire round, I will add just to the semantics in language makes a lot of difference on how you talk to your team, how you work with your team, how you email other people, right? Going back to what Jay and Cindie had talked about, it's just substituting words like with instead of for. I work with that individual. Yeah, I work with Ryan, and not Ryan works for me. You know what I mean? That goes a long way. The way that comes off, the way it sounds to other people and to those individuals who you're talking about. So, Cindie, we're at the point of the show where we like to, and guys, I do want to let you know, I'm not going to be testing this out on Cindie, but I've got some new games in the works. All right, I've got a couple things. I know we do rapid fire. We're going to do that today, but I just want to let you both know that they're coming. All right, so
but you're not hosting for like another month, so it's like,
yeah, this is the J show. We're fixing to get to the J show.
I have to develop them first. All right, details. I'm not just going to throw them out there. I'm striving for excellence here.
There we go. Okay,
on theme. So, Cindie, you shared some really great insight with us, and I really enjoyed learning even more about you yesterday and today. So I'm going to go ahead and tackle the traveler side of you. All right, and so 46 out of 50 states is really impressive. Out of the ones that you don't regularly.
Yeah, why do you hate those 4 states?
I do want to know the 4 states, but
what
I also
did they do to offend
know,
you?
I want to know out of the 46, other than the ones you've lived in or have family that you're regularly going to, what are what's your top? What state are you going back to just because you love it that much? And I know you're a Florida girl, but I believe you have family there, correct?
No, I have no family
Okay.
in Florida. Yeah.
So
it's the beach is the attraction.
Got it. Okay.
That's where you just sit and do nothing. But getting to explore, if I'm on a vacation to see something, then I'm up and I'm out and I'm gone and on the go all day. So those are 2 distinct types of vacations. And I don't dislike those 4 states. I just haven't had the opportunity yet. It's North Dakota, Nebraska, Oregon, and Alaska. Of all things, Alaska. So that's first out of the 4.
Road trip.
Yeah. And I do have family there, so I have no excuse to not go there. But favorites, it's hard to say what makes a favorite, except, and we didn't talk about this at all. For probably almost 20 years, I've been going to the Final Four. So some of my favorite states are the states that are walkable. We didn't really talk about stuff like that today, but walkable cities where you've got everything right there. And interestingly enough, those would be San Antonio and Indianapolis.
Okay.
Yeah, both of those are very walkable.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Both of those are very walkable.
Yeah. Boston was one that I want to spend more time in, but very walkable in Boston.
Boston is a great city. Yes. But anything along the eastern seaboard that has a beach is great.
Well, okay, I'm gonna go to the next question then. What is your favorite beach of all time? Do you have a favorite? Because there's
Uh,
different. All beaches are different. You know, it's
Yeah, I
whether
gotta
you're
assume like
going.
Hawaii versus Florida, totally different, right?
oh, Hawaii's amazing. Listen, after I went to Hawaii for 2 weeks, I wanted to move there till I realized that it would be very expensive to visit anyone and no one would come visit me. So I did not move there. But but
That
Hawaii,
sounds like
yeah,
Shane's
Hawaii.
dream.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, to be in a place no one would visit me for sure. I don't know
Yeah,
if
and it's
Hawaii is it.
paradise. It's really paradise, but it's very expensive too. So
But then you'd have to start eating seafood, and that wouldn't work.
Yeah, that wouldn't work. I'm gonna have to have cows
Yeah.
out there.
yeah.
Okay, so favorite beach.
Oh, she didn't say it. Sorry. Thought it was all of Hawaii. Isn't that just
Yeah,
one big beach?
I think I'm going to go with Hawaii, and it's the Big Island. It's not Honolulu. It's the Big Island. And Oahu, it's the Big Island.
So not work related. What's the first thing you just remember being good at? Like you were better at it than peers, classmates, family, something.
Wow, really? I I used to produce block party shows in my neighborhood.
Oh, now we're in it.
I used to get all the kids, and we would, dress up in. I'd pull all the clothes out of my mother's closet or have them bring clothes over, and we would string a clothesline across, and we would charge any kid who didn't want to be in it had to pay a dime, and then we would do the little shows.
You had a little racket going. That's how she knew about Maroon 5 and Jessica Simpson. She's been leveraging this muscle memory for years.
Yeah.
So you like to entertain, obviously, and that's maybe some of your roots there, but we talked food earlier. So two-parter. I got to get at least one two-part question into each episode. You know a little bit about us. You've heard us on the show talk about food. What meal are you cooking, the three of us, if we're having dinner with Cindie? And when I go to New Jersey next year, sorry guys, I didn't invite you to this
Thanks
one.
for
But
the invite.
when I do go to New Jersey, that'll be my first time legitimately. I've probably driven through or I've been close, but legitimately visiting Jersey. Where should I go to eat?
Oh, well, okay. So I want you all to come to dinner, including Shane.
Okay, good.
So,
Yeah,
so
that's-
the
she knew.
meal
She
will
knows.
be Guinness pie,
Okay.
which
What is that?
this awesome dish. It's sort of like a stew with filet mignon tips and carrots and
Okay.
potatoes
Now we're talking.
and cheddar cheese, and you put it all in this big baking dish, and you top it with pie crust, and you bake it, and it is incredibly good. But we would start off with a charcuterie platter,
Okay.
and then I would make a salad to go with it. You probably are not going to eat this.
Did
Shane.
you just lose,
Sorry.
Shane?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I lost him with the salad, but you can just
It's okay.
skip the salad.
I'll
'cause
push
would
it
have-
around while everyone else is eating if that makes
No,
you feel
but
better.
the salad is like a mixed field green spring mix, and it's got fruit in it, and it's got some kind of cheese, and it's got a homemade dressing. So it's not your typical salad.
Okay.
And then it would either
There is
be
no
a homemade
typical salad.
cake or a pie, because I love to bake as well. Oh, and crusty bread, because you can never have a good meal without crusty bread.
Okay. I'd eat
you,
there.
You got me. That sounds amazing. I know that you have one more question to answer on my question, but I do want to ask the panel here. Jay, I would assume yes from you based on where you grew up. But when I talk to Shane, there are a lot of foods that we eat in our area, Cindie and Jay, obviously, that they do not eat. Or is pot pie? So this sounds like an amazing, much better version of just a typical, beef shepherd's pie.
I don't like
or
regular
pot
pot pie.
Right. Yours sounds much better. But I'm just curious, Shane, is that something? Do you do that down there, or is that?
Hannah eats pot pies. I don't know what led her to that path and to disappoint me greatly, but she does.
Well, no. So tell her this: you don't use beef stock. You pour in 2 cans of Guinness when you're cooking the meat and the
Okay.
vegetables all together. I mean, the alcohol burns off. Obviously, there's you're not getting drunk when you're eating the pie, but it is so flavorful.
Jay,
I love it.
grow up with?
Yeah, I've never had it, but I've heard of Guinness pie before.
Okay.
But I also grew up in Buffalo, which is very, very heavy Irish population. And I used to work at a restaurant, a bar that was probably one of the biggest Guinness sellers and corned beef sellers around St. Patty's Day. So it was massive. So yes.
So Buffalo and Rochester, you do that. I forget what it's called. I think it begins with a K. That roast beef on a roll.
Beef on weck.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's my favorite. Yep.
Kimmelwick, is that what the roll is actually called? Wick is just short for that, but yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes. Beef on weck is usually my very first meal
When you go
when
back.
I go back home. That and wings are typically like day one. I'm going to get wings and Kimmelwick. So yes.
So beef on wick is a very, they do a lot in Rochester, but very Buffalo based, kind of like chicken wings. So that bar bill, Jay, which I absolutely love that it's come to Rochester. My favorite wings for sure is Bar Bill. That's their other special. It's wings and beef on wick. Like that's the two main things that they sell. It's great.
Should I even ask what the hell that is, or would I just be greatly disappointed?
Oh,
No,
you love it.
You'd love it.
You would like it. It's beef.
It's a beef sandwich that you dip into like
Oh, okay. I'm interested.
like a soup. Yeah.
Beef on wick. Okay.
Yeah. You would like this one.
Okay. Now I'm interested.
All right, Cindie, where am I eating? Where do I have to eat when and I know we'll be in the Atlantic City area, so I plan to go out, right?
You're going to eat wherever we eat.
There you go.
Because you're going
That's
to
a
be
good
with our
answer.
tribe.
I love it.
All right, perfect. I trust you. If you could make a dinner like that, I trust you.
Shane probably doesn't feel this way, but I'm feeling left out because he probably likes being left out, but I feel left out.
That's fine.
Well, I actually follow several food bloggers on Instagram that are all New Jersey foods.
Yeah.
So I'm
Me too.
a big sweets person, and one of them is that there's a lot of crumb cakes in New Jersey, and I love crumb cake. So if I get it up there, you have to tell me where to get a good crumb cake.
Muller's Bakery.
Okay, that's
No
actually I've
hesitation.
seen that one.
How far is that from Philly? Because we'll be in Philly. Isn't that close to New Jersey?
Yes. It's
Couple hours,
about, depending where you go, about an hour.
Well, we
Okay.
can do that.
Would
Okay,
that be
last
worth a
question
trip?
for me to get you out. Work related or not work related? But if you could give your younger self advice, what would you say?
Don't take yourself so seriously and learn how to delegate sooner.
Ooh,
Love it.
those are two incredible statements.
They are.
Shit,
That
I
was
didn't
awesome.
have to think about that one.
No,
No,
boom.
and I think, I don't know, maybe not you guys, but I think delegation is probably like the hardest thing that I've had to like just learn because I want to delegate, but I also, want to be involved in things. So there's like a fine line of like being involved too much versus delegating. So yeah, that's great. I love it.
Well, gentlemen and Cindie, thank you so much for your time today. It has been a really great conversation. I had no doubt that it would, but I really enjoyed it and learning so much about you and the wisdom and insight you've had to share with our guests and our
We
listeners.
just
So,
scratched the surface. We could have gone
I
for a
know.
while.
I know. I feel like I could go another hour with you.
Well, if you'd invite us on one of these 8-hour trips, we could just talk.
it's true.
That's true. I would like to just end on one thing, and that's that I'm wearing red today because today is Friday. I realize your listeners cannot see. However, I wear red every Friday
Okay.
because it is Remember Everyone Deployed. RED,
Oh, wow. Okay.
for our troops overseas.
Every
That's awesome.
Friday.
Every Friday.
Okay.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's
Great.
a great thing to remember.
Yes. Great piece of advice that I'm sure I wasn't aware of that. So
No. Did you come up with that?
No, no.
Okay.
The military community did, and there are several organizations that have different shirts with it as well. So
Cool.
it's something I try to practice, and then sometimes people will ask me, and I'll share it with them.
Love it.
So I have a platform here to share.
Yeah.
you do. And I
Yeah.
almost feel like we just talked about like we can go more. We maybe missed the opportunity to talk about the Army brat background. I have so many questions on that as well. So maybe we've talked about this. We feel that there might be part twos coming in this. And so we'll put a TBD on this conversation. But Cindie, thank you again for the time. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Take
See
care.
ya.
It was
Thank
my
you.
pleasure.
Thank you, Cindy.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
That was good.
Yeah. Cindy's
That
awesome.
went
awesome.
quick.
It did. It
All of
did.
a sudden,
I know,
you were introducing the round robin, and I looked at my watch, I was like, God, I didn't realize we had already gotten there that quick.
Yeah, I would have wanted to go down to a couple other directions, but we definitely were having great conversations, so it was hard to go there.
Yeah, I was getting a little overwhelmed when before we started the episode because I had so many directions I wanted to go with Cindie, but also Oklahoma, and it was definitely a great conversation though. And I know I said this earlier in the show, but those conversations, I've known Cindie since, again, maybe 2012, so about 12 years, maybe the year before that I might have met her at a conference in passing, but there's so much that I did not know about her that I learned yesterday and today. And I, again, can't say enough how much I enjoy these conversations.
What's been cool about what we're doing, and we kind of know it, but people reach out to us now. Hey, the Cindie Sullivan episode was great or whatever. Now we can just make that connection. And even though we, as the three people on this podcast, or even whoever our listener base, don't necessarily get any more than the 45 minutes Cindie gave us, if those people reach out to us and we make connections, they get to have those opportunities to follow back up about why you wear red on Fridays, or what it's like being a military brat, or wow, you went from campus rec to public rec. That was a huge transition, or 30 years in the county, or 35 years working for your state association. There's so many things we could have gone with that if we didn't hit what you were super interested in, which is why we're doing this, right? To make this industry smaller, you have the opportunity to either through us or on your own, reach out to Cindie and continue to keep that conversation going,
Yeah. And she said something to that effect of, we're in an industry that everyone shares everything. So I would encourage anyone that is listening that wants to connect with a guest or us, like, do that. Like, no one's ever going to say no to that. And they'll open that with, open arms and be excited about it. So it's a great mentality to have that, hey, don't be shy, put yourself out there, be vulnerable, and let's connect.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I'm just going to end with one thought that we talked a little bit about Oklahoma, and at least one individual's reached out to us since then to talk about the show and ask for some advice.
And Tom's responded immediately, and I have yet to respond. That's our MO.
So, well, you haven't, because he's already responded back to me. He's probably, I hope he said something about, Shane, I don't know what his deal is, but what I didn't tell you all, just to end on a funny note that nobody's listening anyway, Shane, during one of our sessions, I brought up Disney maybe once, maybe twice. I won't, who's counting? Either way, I brought it up, and Shane said, he goes, yeah, Disney, what are you going to say, that Disney sucks? And I go, yeah, sure, Disney sucks. And I repeated him, and he basically made a big deal about it, that you said it, Disney sucks. And this individual, Kyle, was presenting on a panel. And
at the same time we were presenting.
At the same time. And he really enjoyed our sessions. He came to, I think, most of them, if not all.
I think he came to all of our sessions.
And his tribe, a gentleman named John in the state of Oklahoma, they don't work in the same agency, but they get together in similar relationship that probably we have. He was recording the session for Kyle. So they have.
So he has that on record.
Yes, he has it on record. He actually sent me the sound bite
saying Disney sucks.
Awesome.
Yeah. Luckily, nobody could prove it, right? There's a lot of deep fakes out there, AI. So I think it's a bunch of crap. But
I'm gonna get that and then have that be like my ringtone whenever Tom texts me
every
or calls
time
me.
Tom called. Yep.
Yep.
Well, good stuff, guys. Thanks for being a part of the show today. Thank you for your time, and for everybody else out there who's still listening. We'll see you next time on RecLess.
See ya.
See you guys.